Hello, I'm Dick Sutphen, and this is a studio-recorded version of a talk that I do in my Time for Action, the Shift Preparedness Seminar. When it comes to communicating about the shift, I came in the back door. I have a long history of conducting seminars in Arizona, and I have often visited the Hopi and Navajo reservations. On occasion, I've guided others through the reservations as part of an Arizona adventure, which begins with visiting the Sedona energy vortexes. We then go to Tuzigoot National Monument, which is a Sonagwa Indian 80-room apartment complex for a people who thrived in the area until the 1300s. It is one of many multi-family structures that can be visited throughout Arizona, Colorado, and New Mexico. In each area, the Native Americans left in the 1300s. Now, no one has known for sure what caused the exodus. Some believe the people in these areas ran out of food or water, or there was disease, or maybe the various tribes were warring. Then I read that geologists claim the last time the Gulf Stream slowed down was in the 1300s. And the result was a 47-year drought that covered the entire Southwest. The Gulf Stream is a huge oceanic conveyor belt that transports heat from the equatorial regions up towards the Atlantic Circle. This provides warmer temperatures in northern Europe. The current cools as it moves north and drops deeper, circulating back south, where it warms again and then rises back up and heads north. But global warming has weakened the circulation because increased meltwater from Greenland and from the Arctic and Antarctic ice sheets, plus greater river runoffs from Russia. Now, this fresh water decreases the salt content of the sea, making it harder for the cooler water to sink. This slows down the engine that drives the current, and the current has slowed 30% in the last 12 years. The movie The Day After Tomorrow was based upon what can be predicted as a result of the Gulf Stream slowing down. According to the geologists and climatologists, in the 1300s, the east coast of the United States became like Siberia. The Midwest became a dust bowl, and the western part of the country experienced a drought that lasted for a very long time. This was the result of the Gulf Stream slowing down. Now, if it were to stop, we would have another ice age, and we would not survive it. It would be the greatest catastrophe in recorded history. The most immediate result of the Gulf Stream slowing down is the greater the difference between the surface temperature of the water and the upper atmosphere, the greater the violence of the weather, and the weirder the weather. And look at what the southeastern portion of our country has been experiencing for the last many years. The drought would have forced all the early Native Americans to move in search of water. Knowing this, I started putting together information related to 2012 and how it all seemed to tie together. So, about 4 years ago, I began using future projection hypnosis to explore what is coming, and I began reading what everyone had to say on the subject of the shift. If you have paid any attention to the Hopi prophecy, you probably know it is now fulfilled. And here is the latest message from the Hopi elders at Arabi, Arizona. We have been telling the people that this is the 11th hour. Now we must go back and tell the people that this is the hour. To the Hopi, we have entered the time of the great purification. Okay, now I'm going to go over some important things that seem to be leading toward the shift, a shift in consciousness that will accompany the arrival of 2012. Now, some feel we are beginning to experience a paradigm shift in consciousness. Others believe we are moving into a time of cataclysmic change, and maybe we're going to be experiencing both at the same time. The Mayan calendar is a key to what is to come, and I'll be talking at length about it in a few minutes. But for now, be aware that some researchers say the Mayan calendar actually ended back in July of 1992, and the period between 1992 and 2012 is considered to be no time, or a time of the apocalypse. It's to be a time of endings and new beginnings. The vibration of our planet is accelerating to the point of activating spiritually oriented people. By activating, I mean their thinking is already more in tune with higher vibration. So they're experiencing and responding to this planetary increase more than others. They're being shifted or called to do more and be more. Their vibratory essence will no longer be capable of tolerating negativity. So they are responding to new callings, new careers that will be of more service to the planet. In relationships, if a couple is not growing together, or if one partner is holding the other back, the union may be dissolved in favor of a spiritual partnership with a new mate of matching vibrational rate. Actually, the shift may be more than a shift in consciousness. It may even be a reworking of our DNA. Scientific theory supports the idea that Earth's magnetic field, and maybe even the Schumann resonance, can affect our DNA through electrical inductance. This is a name given when two magnetic fields interact, creating a shift in attributes. Now, the Schumann resonance is the heartbeat of the Earth itself. The Earth behaves like an enormous electrical circuit, and for thousands of years it was stable at 7.8 cycles per second. Because it was thought to be constant, global military communications were established on that frequency, 7.8 cycles per second. But since the mid-1980s, this resonance has been changing, and it's now over 12 cycles per second, and no one knows why. The Schumann resonance can only go to 13. Now, I need to insert a question here. Do you feel as if life is speeding up? Most people do. According to some scientists, the resonance being over 12 cycles per second means that life is literally speeding up. We are living the equivalent of 16 hours per day instead of the old 24 hours per day. In other words, our watches all say 24 hours, but in actuality, we may be living 16-hour days right now. Time is said to be collapsing. Now, there are so many theories about what's happening, but one says that everything will continue to pulse faster until we get to December 21, 2012. Now, at that time, we will have stabilized the pulse and will remain switched into a higher frequency all the time. In other words, you'll be on all the time. James O'Day, president of the Institute of Noetic Sciences, believes that December 21, 2012 is our pay date. He says, clock time has been accelerating with such a velocity that people's lives are increasingly shattered by stress, exhaustion, and the impossibility of fulfilling the multiple demands now made upon them. We struggle to prevent our lives from fragmenting. We are increasingly spun out. The more we are spun, the more our world seems to careen out of balance, and our loss of rhythm commits us collectively to a race against time that is unsupportable and unsustainable. It is a race we cannot win. For time itself and the very purpose of life cannot be squeezed into the narrow funnel of the ego's feverish and furious enticements. Okay, now that was a mouthful. Maybe if we survive this wild ride, we will have transcended levels of consciousness. Some people feel we will have transcended from a third-dimensional reality to a fourth-dimensional reality, or maybe even a fifth-dimensional reality. When asked about how to prepare for the shift, a channel named Corel said, "Stay in your hearts, raise your spirituality. The key to getting through the shift is raising your spiritual essence." So how do you do that? Meditate, meditate, meditate. This makes sense. Meditation accesses energies that we don't perceive in a linear, conscious state. In deep meditation, your cellular energy can surface and be delineated into thought patterns. All right, now let's go back to the natural manifestations related to the shift. Frank DeMarco is CEO of Hampton Roads Publishing, who published my last book, which was titled Soul Agreements. Frank sent me an email article titled Dry Ice Global Warming Revealed, and it was written by Drunvalo Melchizedek. I will condense the main content and quote some of his words. The article began, "What you are about to read is going to change your life forever. Of this, I can promise you." In January 2004, Sir David King, England's chief scientist, informed Prime Minister Tony Blair of impending worldwide disaster. Although instructed not to inform the public, King decided the information was too important to suppress and spoke out in the American Journal of Science. Now, England has now placed a gag order on King with the threat of detention. In the Pentagon's Office of Net Assessment, Andrew W. Marshall is responsible for identifying long-term threats to the U.S. A study titled An Abrupt Climate Change Scenario and Its Implications for U.S. National Security was completed in October 2003. Probably because of Bush's indifference to the environmental concerns, Marshall released the information before it could be labeled top secret. The melting north and south poles and glaciers around the world are composed of fresh water, which is the basis of the impending global disaster. At the South Pole a few years ago, Larsen's Ledge A broke off. The scientists who investigated this said that Larsen's Ledge B would never melt because it had been there for many ice ages. Yet, it soon broke off and went to sea. The same scientists said it would take 6 months to melt because of its immense size. And it melted in 35 days, and it raised the entire world's oceans by almost an inch. With this ledge gone, Ross's shelf is exposed. It's an enormous ice shelf, and the only thing keeping it from sliding into the sea was Larsen's B ledge. And now, Ross's shelf is cracking. If it falls into the sea and melts, it will raise the entire world's oceans by 16 to 20 feet, which will wipe out coastal cities and islands worldwide. A few years ago, the North Pole completely melted for the first time in known history. This area has never been seen without 10 feet of solid ice. The winter to summer snowpack has receded by 300 miles, and this is just the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. The melting fresh water is lowering the salt levels in the sea and is destroying the Gulf Stream. Now, the Gulf Stream has been dramatically slowing down for at least 10 years, changing the weather patterns of the world. Marshall's Pentagon report says the Gulf Stream has slowed down or stopped hundreds of times in the far past, but only twice in the last 10,000 years. In 1300 AD, it slowed down but did not actually stop. Now, this resulted in what is called a Little Ice Age. But the report goes on to say the Gulf Stream might not just slow down. It may stop as it did 8,200 years ago. At that time, it left northern Europe under half a mile of ice, and New York and England quickly endured weather similar to Siberia. Realize that without stable weather conditions, the growing of food becomes almost impossible. And according to the Pentagon, this could become such a huge problem for the world in the near future that wars will begin to form all over the world, not for oil or energy, but for food and water. Okay, I think it's time that I talk a bit about the Mayan calendar, because it's one of the keys to the predictions. It will end on December 21, 2012. But before we explore that, you need to be aware that it is not just one Mayan calendar. There are between 17 and 20 calendars, with each being unique. Evidently, each one is like an almanac, and many are actually in use by Mayan people today. Up to 5 of the calendars are said to be prophetic, and the Mayan elders are unwilling to release them. Maybe they fear the public becoming aware of fearful predictions. December 21, 2012 is said to be the end of the present age. The end of one age is, of course, the birth of the next age. There is never complete destruction of the old. The best of the old becomes the seeds of the new. This makes the end of the old age a time of purification, not necessarily the end of life on earth. There are going to be some incredible celestial alignments in 2012. For all these alignments to take place at the same time is unheard of. Mayan researcher John Major Jenkins believes the Mayans actually created the calendar to end on December 21, 2012, so it would match the alignments. They had no telescopes or calculators or computers, yet the Mayans had a unique numbering system and used advanced math to calculate cycles that were as long as 26,000 years. The astrological alignment most researchers are concerned about is explained by Jenkins, who claims that when the solstice sun rises on December 21, 2012, there will be an alignment with the center of the Milky Way galaxy and will in fact eclipse it. When the eclipse passes, we will have moved into the next age, when the transformative power of the alignment will be felt. The Mayan prophecies were written in Katuns, each covering 20 years. The Katun from 1992 to 2012 says that governments and religions will let us down as we move toward 2012. Resources will be scarce and people will be afraid. Natural disasters will increase, and the age will end with destruction by fire. But there will be a rising of consciousness. People are reunited with the wisdom of the past as a new age unfolds. As we return to the lost wisdom, we also return to living with the natural cycles of the earth. People from all places will unite. The present Katun also talks about purification and warns of scarcity of resources, food shortages, and many people dying. A new Katun begins 2012 and describes the 20 years that will follow. The following is a direct quote. "This is a time of total collapse when everything is lost. It is the time of the judgment of God. There will be epidemics and plagues and then famine. Governments will be lost to foreigners. Wise men and prophets will be lost." This time is considered by the Mayans to be the final days of misfortune. They also predict earth changes in the form of storms, earthquakes, famine, and pestilence. People will lose confidence in all structures in society. The prophecy goes on. The days turn upside down, stones fall from the sky, and fire consumes everything. This sounds like a massive supervolcano, maybe causing a magnetic pole shift when the earth actually turns on a new axis. In the book 2012, authors Cynthia and Colin Andrews say, "Don't confuse a magnetic pole reversal with a pole shift. A reversal is a reversal of the magnetic field. A pole shift is movement in the molten lava core of the planet, which actually shifts the axis of rotation." And, as the Andrews explain in their book, a supervolcano is as powerful as 1,000 Hiroshima-type nuclear bombs. A supervolcano can hide for centuries with no one knowing it's there. A regular volcano looks like a mountain with a large cone-shaped funnel. But a supervolcano is a depression-like basin, which actually fills with water and looks just like a lake. The largest supervolcano hotspot ever discovered is in Yellowstone National Park. Identified in 1993, it lies under a beautiful glacial lake, but it's an 8 on a volcano explosivity index, the highest possible level. It covers 136 acres under the lake and has been rising since 2004, forming a bulge. Now, Yellowstone is different from ordinary supervolcanoes. It's fueled by underground accumulations of uranium formed over millions of years. When this volcano blows, it will spew radioactive lava across the states of Wyoming, Nebraska, Montana, and parts of Canada. People are thinking it will blow in 2012 because the Earth is part of an interactive system, and the sunspot activity that is due at this time will put more energy along the magnetosphere, resulting in changes in the molten core of the planet. The changes could cause an explosion. And if Yellowstone blows, it will be 8,000 times what happened with Mount St. Helens. Huge rocks, molten lava, and magma will be ejected through the air at supersonic speeds. States in the immediate area will be devastated. The next circle out will spread over the continent, ending air travel for 3 to 5 years and blocking the sun. This could cause temperatures to drop to the level of a nuclear winter. So we could no longer grow food, and there would be no airplanes, no satellites, no clear radio waves, and we'd have radioactive fallout. So Yellowstone could end civilization as we know it. Okay, the Mayans believe cycles of any length end with purification followed by renewal, according to the authors of 2012. And they say, be aware that we are already purifying. There are challenges of extreme weather. There's distrust of our leadership. And economic distress is already here. And as the purification increases, civil unrest is assured. Soon, competition for necessities will increase. People and nations will try to get what they need through force. All right, I need to talk about other concerns. In May 2008, there was a new carbon dioxide report released. It says that we now have the highest levels in 650,000 years, and the report is 35% worse than the scientists feared. The headline in the Guardian newspaper said, "Earth may be losing the ability to absorb CO2, say scientists." The increase in the CO2 levels in our atmosphere is so intense, Earth is losing its natural ability to soak up billions of tons of CO2 each year. This is due to the growth in the world economy, the heavy use of coal in China, and the weakening of the natural sinks, the forests, seas, and soils that absorb carbon. Now, there's an observatory lab at 11,000 feet in Hawaii on Mauna Loa, and another in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. The Tennessee collection site says that CO2 is up 38% since 1992. So what does this mean? It will generate higher temperatures and rising sea levels, along with a myriad of potential impact ranging from increased storm and hurricane intensity, melting polar ice, Arctic permafrost and glaciers, changes in ocean currents, in addition to further slowing of the Gulf Stream. It will generate changes in ecosystems, species migration, and it will generate mass extinctions. The World Meteorological Organization says that carbon dioxide has amounted to 90% of the global warming over the last decade. So, a huge increase in 2008 is really, really bad news. Okay, now let's round out this picture. Global warming is also causing the permafrost of the Arctic areas in Russia, Canada, and Alaska to melt. This causes emissions of enormous amounts of greenhouse gases, which in turn speeds up the global greenhouse effect. Now, in addition to CO2, one of the gases which the soil emits after the permafrost has melted is methane, which is far stronger than CO2. I fear this multi-level acceleration is going to cause a tipping point. In nature, things go along for a long time, and then there's a tipping point. Something triggers a reaction. And in this case, it could be the sea levels rapidly rising. In his film, An Inconvenient Truth, Al Gore talked about the sea rising 22 feet, which would destroy every port city in the world and displace 25% of the world's population. Try to imagine that. And then remember how well we handled the displacement of the people of New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. I have conducted a projection into the future with over 2,000 people participating in England and the U.S. Now, this is a hypnotic projection. I have asked each audience what they see happening in New York City on December 21, 2012. At least 85 to 90% report seeing water in the subway system in Lower Manhattan. And they tell of people leaving the city. They're confused and fearful, and the city is closing down. Here's another item that I want to mention relating to the problem with the CO2. I've talked to some scientist type who think the chemtrails. Now, you've seen these weird jet trail patterns in the sky. They're the result of secret chemical spraying operations all over the country by both military and commercial planes. Now, this may be an international governmental attempt to absorb the excess CO2 in the atmosphere. Some say we are in so much trouble in this regard, the governments don't dare tell the people for fear of creating total chaos. So they are trying to quietly explore solutions. Now, the only problem here is that whatever the gunk they're releasing from the planes, it's causing a lot of people to get sick. And I don't know what to think about this reasoning in regard to the chemtrails, but it may be worth mentioning here. If you're not familiar with this, do a web search on chemtrails. Chemtrails. Okay, now here's something else to consider. The United Nations Disaster Preparedness scholars say as soon as 2010, 50 million people around the world could be driven from their homes by weather each year. Newsweek magazine says the situation is getting worse. We now have 2 to 3 times as many extreme events of climate or water-related emergencies per year as we did in the 1970s. The annual economic loss has increased 6-fold. Here's another one. According to the World Health Organization figures, 150,000 people died in the year 2000 as a result of climate change. Okay, I need to talk about sunspot activity, which I mentioned quickly a few minutes ago. Sunspot activity rises and falls every 11 years. It creates electromagnetic energy, which affects the electromagnetism of Earth. In 2012, sunspot activity will be from 30 to 50% more intense than the last time and will most likely have major consequences in today's technological society. In the past, we did not have GPS systems or cell phones or the internet. all of which are possible because of satellites. Scientists are worried that the intensity of the sun flares will knock out the satellites that are not shielded. And it's primarily the military satellites that are shielded. That fact is a little unsettling to me, because once the high-definition television switch is made, our TV signals will supposedly be delivered over military satellites, which means the government will be controlling what we see. In regard to the sunspots, larger influxes of energy from the sun will drive even more extreme weather conditions, including super hurricanes like Katrina in 2005. We may be moving to a time of one major storm after another, after another, after another. And when it comes to global warming and storms, it should be noted that some of the major cities in the U.S. are in danger of rising sea levels. The most endangered city in the world is Miami. Even a small rise in the water levels could wipe out South Florida. Number 2 on the endangered U.S. city list is New York and Newark, New Jersey. Number 3, New Orleans. Number 4, Tampa, Florida. Number 5, Virginia Beach, Virginia. Number 6, Boston. Number 7, Philadelphia. Number 8, San Francisco and Oakland, California. Number 9, Baltimore. And number 10, Los Angeles and Long Beach, California. Now, Los Angeles and Long Beach are ranked number 10 in the U.S., but are world-ranked number 32. Despite their proximity to the Pacific Ocean, the L.A. metropolitan area sits comfortably above sea level, with many neighborhoods situated in hilly areas, which may explain why it ranks lower on the list, even though it has major assets and a huge population. Also, the Pacific Ocean is much calmer than the Atlantic. Okay, now I've been asked by many people who have read my columns on the shift or attended a seminar. They ask me what I think is going to happen on December 21, 2012. And in response, I tell them that I don't think anything significant is going to happen other than what has been happening and will be happening at this time. We are already experiencing the shift energy, and we will continue to experience it up until that date, the date the Mayan calendar ends. But it will then be the beginning of a new age, and we will be slowly evolving out of what has been happening into a world of what is to come. I do not assume that the purification will immediately be over. It sounds to me as if the Mayans have predicted considerable problems will follow us into the next age, a new age. All right, now I want to end this missive on a positive note, if that's possible after all the information I've shared with you. Let's explore why you might have signed on to be here on earth at the time of the shift. If it's going to be a trial, what were you thinking when you decided to be a part of this? A lot of people are asking this question right now. Okay, now I teach people that they were born with a vibrational rate that they earned in the past. In other words, how you lived all your previous lives and how you applied all that learning resulted in a vibrational rate, a rate that you had earned. And that includes how you've lived your life this time around, from the time you were born right up until this moment. Were you kind? Have you been compassionate and caring? Or have you only been out for yourself? selfish, and manipulative. As an example, Mother Teresa probably raised her vibrational rate a great deal in her recent life on Earth. Hitler must have lowered his vibrational rate about as low as it could go. But now, if the vibrational rate of our planet is increasing, our vibrational rate is also increasing. We are part of the Earth. We're made of the same stuff, and we cannot separate ourselves from the Earth. So, as the rate of the Earth increases, our rate increases as well. And maybe by just being here at this time, we will increase our vibrational rate many lifetimes. To advance many lifetimes, and maybe many, many, many lifetimes, wouldn't it be worth it to be here now, to make the most of this transitional time? All right, I've shared a lot of ideas that may or may not be part of the forthcoming shift. For the second part of this program, I will share some information on how to prepare for what is coming, if you decide to take action. Time for Action, the Shift Preparedness Seminar. Hello, I'm Dick Sutphen, and if times should get as hard as some people think they're going to get, you may want to prepare now. Once we're in crisis, it will be very difficult to obtain most of the items that I'll be talking about. For a relatively small amount of money, if you make the right choices, you can secure your future and those you're responsible for. In the actual preparedness seminar, there is a lot of interaction with the participants, which generates more awareness for those attending. This varies, of course, from seminar to seminar. I will be sharing with you the basic seminar as I've worked it out. I often demonstrate and provide samples of various survival food. Each segment of the seminar will be on a separate audio track to make it easy for you to go back and re-listen or copy particular information. I'll start this segment of the seminar by sharing what I call the 7 steps of preparedness. Then I'll talk about my experiences in leading a group through a Montana wilderness school, which is to emphasize the need for stocking your own food supplies. The first of 7 steps of preparedness is water. Water is most critical because you can only live a few days without it, while you could live maybe 2 weeks to a month without food. You'll also need water to cook your food, assuming you've stocked storage food. You're primarily made up of water. 70% of the Earth's surface is water. But all the fresh water available for human use and management amounts to less than 3% of the total. And of the tiny 3%, more than 80% of the fresh water on this planet is in the form of glacial ice, and thus unavailable. Most of the remaining fresh water is underground. As the population and demands of agriculture increase worldwide, the demand for this diminishing resource increases proportionately. It will increase 10 times in the next century. In the event of a disaster, you can assume that the current system of water delivery will be affected. Even if the faucets in your home or apartment still work, the water will probably be polluted. So what do you do to assure your survival? On average, we each use 150 gallons of water a day. Now that's for drinking, bathing, showering, cooking, flushing the toilets, washing our dishes, washing clothes, watering the lawn, washing the car, etc. A normal person needs to drink 2 quarts of water per day, and you'll probably require more during a disaster situation. Realistically, you need water to cook and wash, so the minimum required is 1 gallon for each member of your family for at least 2 weeks. For a family of 4, that's 56 gallons. And that's assuming the crisis will be over in 2 weeks, and things will then return to normal. But we're talking about a transitional event. That means you might be on your own for a very long time. For a family of 4 to have enough water for a year would mean about 1,500 gallons, an unrealistic goal to be sure, unless you have a swimming pool in your backyard, or even if you do, the water will go bad without power. So number 1, you'll need to store water. Water weighs about 8 pounds a gallon, which creates problems when storing quantity. Water should be stored in new containers and should be rotated and stored with bleach or better, a water preserver, which will stabilize the electrolytes of the oxygen for 5 years. A product like Aerobic 07 selectively kills microbes, bacteria, parasites, and viruses by over-oxygenating the water. You can use straight liquid bleach with a single ingredient of sodium hypochlorite in it. 16 drops of bleach per gallon, or 1 teaspoon per 5 gallons. Never use powdered bleach or any bleach with softeners, scents, or color fasteners because they are poison. Don't store water in metal containers or reused food containers. Keep it stored away from any form of contaminants such as petroleum-based products, fertilizers, and so on. 2, learn how to filter and purify water so that it's safe to drink. Assume that bacteria is everywhere. The MSR Waterworks 2 ceramic filtration unit is one that I personally use, but there are many fine water filtration systems, so investigate this on your own at a place where you would buy camping supplies or from one of the survivalist centers that are primarily located in Utah. Now, I'm not willing to count on current normal conditions during a transitional phase. Clean water as best you can. Now, a sock filled with sand will take the gunk out of it. It still won't be clear and it won't be purified, but once you have let it settle, ladle off the top and take the steps to purify that I'm going to describe now. If you're dealing with removing nuclear fallout from water, find a bucket or a barrel and punch 3 small holes in the bottom. Then, fill the bucket or barrel with a couple inches of gravel. Then fill the rest of the bucket with dirt taken from below the surface. Now, clay soil is the best. And lay a porous cloth on top of the dirt and add the contaminated water and allow it to filter through. This will take out 99% of the fallout. Now, to purify the water, boil it for 10 minutes at sea level and add 1 minute per 1,000 feet of elevation. Water boils at lower temperatures at higher elevations, so you have to boil it longer to kill the things that would make you sick. Purify with a filter or bleach or halazone or iodine purification tablets. You can neutralize the iodine taste, but the fact is still there that it isn't good for you in any quantity. All right, now here's the iodine ratio. A gallon of clear water you would put in 12 drops of iodine. In a gallon of cloudy water, you would add 24 drops of iodine. Bleach. Now here's the bleach ratio. 1 gallon of clear water equals 16 drops of bleach. 1 gallon of cloudy water, 20 drops of bleach. Again, use only sodium hypochlorite. With bleach as a purifier, let the treated water stand for at least 30 minutes. If very cold, let it stand for an hour before drinking. Find water inside your home. Water can be trapped in lines, hoses, your waterbed, in the hot water heater, in toilet tanks. Collect outside water, the ocean. Go about 50 feet inland or just beyond the high tide mark and dig down. Salt may be filtered out. From a stream, do the same thing and purify. Rainwater, melted snow, or ice. But know that bacteria can be in this water and you'll still need to purify. All right, now here's how to build a solar still. A solar still uses heat to evaporate water from the soil and the plants and a cooler surface to condense and collect the water. Dig a hole approximately 3 feet across and 2 foot deep in the most moist soil that you can find. Place a container in the bottom of the hole to collect the water. Line the hole with fresh vegetation, leaves, small plants, and so on. Cover the hole with a sheet of clear plastic, which you secure around the end with dirt and rocks. Allow the plastic to form a 30-degree cone, and so you place a small rock in the center of the plastic to hold this shape. The sun shining through the plastic will evaporate water from the soil and the plants. The water condenses on the underside of the plastic and drips down into the container. The still will generate about a cup of water every 8 hours, so dig several. All right, here's how to use a solar bag to find water. Fill a large plastic bag with non-poisonous plants, such as grass or dandelions. Tear up the plants before you place them in the bag. Now tie the bag shut and place it in the sun. Water will condense on the bottom. So don't use bags that are coated with any kind of a bug killer. And it will only make a small amount of water. But still, it's a way to generate water if you really need it. Another way is with a solar wrap. Wrap the branches of a tree in a plastic bag or a large plastic sheet. Tie the bag closed around the branches and arrange so that one corner catches the condensed droplets. How much water depends upon the plant and the subsoil structure. But this is a desert survival technique that has saved many lives. Another way to obtain water. All right, now at night, lay a blanket away from trees and it will be soaked by dew in the morning. Wring the water from it, or mop up dew in the grass in the morning. Railings will also contain dew, the surface of your car, and then wring it out and filter the dirt. The second area of preparedness is food storage. When it comes to storing food, purchase the essentials first. Now here's a good rule of thumb for an average adult for 1 year, eating 2,300 calories a day. 300 pounds of grains, wheat, rice, oats, corn, and so on. Also, 60 pounds of dried beans, peas, lentils, and 60 pounds of honey, sugar, or a combination of the two. Also, 75 pounds of powdered milk, and 20 pounds of oils and fats, and 5 pounds of salt. Plus, of course, vitamins and leavening agents, yeast and baking powder, plus seasonings and flavorings. Some preparedness experts recommend 2,600 calories a day, so increase the amounts proportionately. Naturally, consider the different sizes, ages, and degrees of activity for those you're storing food for. The purchase of a top-quality hand-crank grain grinder should be among your first purchases. Now, here are some tips. Number 1, store your grains in round containers, not square, because you want air to circulate around the buckets. Today, ideally, you'll use 6-gallon plastic buckets with sealable tops. In the bucket, the grain will ideally be treated with Permagard and inserted in triple-layer metallized liner bags and then sealed with a heat sealer. Instead of treating the grain, you may want to add oxygen absorption packets. Put 4 in a 6-gallon pail. Now, I treat the grain and also add the oxygen packets. Number 2, over time, food value deteriorates, or use your supplies and rotate. Number 3, whole rice can go rancid in a short time. Polished rice will keep for many years but has far less food value. Number 4, non-fat dried milk, if stored properly, will last a few years. Now, this is non-instant milk. The top grade is best because it has lower moisture content. Number 5, canned goods are great for storage if you rotate, but they're not good for over a many-year period. All right, now we're looking at sprouting seeds and supplies. By sprouting, you have fresh, green, live foods for pennies a day. Seeds can be purchased in bulk from a seed company. And if you simply Google in sprouting on the web, you will find several sites that will supply you with all that you require and a great variety of seeds. All right, next you should consider your medical essentials. If you take a daily prescription, talk your doctor into a year's supply, which you can then rotate. Buy the best medical kit that you can afford. Overstock items that you'll be most likely to need. Purchase a variety of medical books, general first aid, outdoor emergency first aid, a home medical guide, and so on. All right, next, number 5 is equipment. Solar-powered radio and flashlight, solar-powered battery charger, and a big supply of rechargeable batteries. Have a shortwave radio. Camping equipment, stoves, fuels, sleeping bags for maximum cold in case you have to keep warm during a nuclear winter. Lanterns, tents, and everything else you'll need to survive outdoors. Gas masks and protective suits if you're concerned about a chemical or a biological attack. There's much more to consider here. See the NitroPack catalog for thousands of possibilities, and I'll be giving you that information in just a little while. Number 6 is tools. Every kind of tool you think that you might need, from garden tools, shovels, automobile tools, saws, wrenches, a crowbar, extra hammers, plus lots of nails, screws, and materials to rebuild if necessary. Number 7, defensive weapons. Even if you dislike the idea of guns, everyone needs a basic defensive weapon, if only to protect themselves from packs of diseased animals that may be running wild. All right, now, the following story was a sidebar in my magazine, Soaring Spirit, issue 70. I'll include it here because it illustrates how important it will be to stock your own storage food. All right, the article was called, "In the Event of Transitional Times." The man running the Montana Wilderness School claimed that he was going to teach us to start a fire by rubbing sticks together. He tried. The sticks smoked, but no fire. Then, all our seminar Preparedness participants, they tried. They created a little smoke, but no fire. Stalking lessons followed. We had a woman teaching us how to sneak up on wild animals. Also, how to call wild animals to you. But she admitted that when she called in deer, grizzly bears also tended to appear. The day before, a local doctor had shared a story with me. One of his patients, a park ranger, had emptied his .357 Magnum into a grizzly without stopping him. The bear chewed on the ranger's foot until another man killed the animal with an assault shotgun. Next in our wilderness agenda was learning to skin weeds and braid our own rope. Now, watching the participants braid away, I thought, if it comes to this, none of these people will survive long enough to worry about making rope. When we returned to the hotel to continue the seminar, a teacher from Brooklyn raised her hand and said, "I've decided the first thing I'm going to store is several cases of matches." The Wilderness School teachings were only 4 hours of my 5-day preparedness intensive. It was held in Missoula, Montana, April 20th through the 24th, 1998. The rest of the seminar was practical survival advice and demonstrations. I scheduled the Wilderness Afternoon as a stark contrast to the main content of the seminar, which included a short course in subjects such as how to find water, where there was nothing coming out of the faucet, 2, many ways to filter and purify water, 3, long-term storage of freeze-dried foods and dehydrated foods, grain storage and usage. 4 was critically important survival equipment. 5, how to avoid being a victim. 6, key hazard areas such as hyperthermia, dehydration, and hypothermia. 7, I talked about 72-hour kits. 8, chemical and biological terrorism. 9, altered state sessions explored potentials. 10, stocking the best trade barter goods. And 11, we watched police training videos. And there was much more. On the last day of the seminar, one of the participants, a woman in her late 70s, joined me in the elevator in the hotel. "I almost made fire," she said. "You think you could do it if you had to?" I asked. "Absolutely," she said, her voice strong and proud. I ended the seminar hoping that all the talk, demonstrations, and exercises had made a strong point for urban survival preparation. Unless you're already a farmer, gardener who is living off the land, you certainly can't count on living off the land during a crisis. Even farmers might need additional knowledge and supplies to make it, for there are many end-time factors that could negate one's ability to grow crops. Now, I had observed large herds of deer and elk all over western Montana, but most of the hunters I talked to did not manage to kill anything that season. If bad times come, even in the Rocky Mountains, the game will be quickly gone. By the turn of the century, most of the mountain men had returned to civilization because they could no longer survive in the wilderness. If bad times come, The only people living off the land will be marauding bands of lawless men. So it comes down to this. If you believe transitional times are forthcoming, prepare so you won't be begging for food, and so you can then focus upon helping others. Assume that there will be no power, no safe water, or no food for a very long time. If you live near the sea, purchase a reverse osmosis desalination unit. Learn to store, find, filter, and purify water. You can only live a few days without it, while you can live 2 weeks to a month without food. All right, now those are the basics of preparedness. Now here's something else I want to talk about. Potassium iodide. Now this is a radioactive thyroid blocking agent. One of the first concerns during the 3 Mile Island crisis was how could the government obtain 1 million doses of potassium iodide, a compound to prevent thyroid cancer in people exposed to radiation. Now, no one could immediately locate a source of supply. Today, many, many years later, the danger of nuclear problems looms even larger, but there are no major stocks of potassium iodide. The product is inexpensive, it's easy to store, and very effective. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission will purchase large quantities of the compound for any state that agrees to store it. They can provide enough for the whole country for only $150,000. So far, only 3 states have accepted the offer: Maine, Tennessee, and Alabama. Many states have rejected the offer. I consider California to be one of the most progressive states in the country, but the California Office of Emergency Services turned down the NRC's offer. Why? I'd guess they fear stockpiling would fuel fears of a nuclear reactor accident, but they don't admit to that. Instead, they claim it would be logistically difficult to distribute the life-saving compound in the event it was needed. They've also said that they are concerned with liability because potassium iodide can cause reactions from a skin rash to a severe breathing problem in people who are allergic to iodine. And even though the U.S. government would buy it, California would be responsible for storing and distribution. Now, children are at the greatest risk. After the Chernobyl meltdown, radiation spread over much of Eastern Europe. Only Poland immediately distributed potassium iodide to its entire population, 97% of the children. In the aftermath, there were major increases in childhood thyroid cancer in the Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia, but not in Poland. The World Health Organization has urged the stockpiling of potassium iodine in any community near nuclear reactors. To me, an even bigger concern is terrorism. A nuclear bomb set off at a street level in San Diego would spread heavy fallout over most of Arizona and much of upper Mexico. A detonation in Little Rock would spread heavy fallout over much of Arkansas, Mississippi, and Tennessee. You get the idea. A tablet of potassium iodide would flood the thyroid, blocking the absorption of radioactive iodine into the thyroid of both children and adults. Using this agent would prevent 99% of the thyroid damage caused by exposure. Without the compound, you are at high risk of losing your thyroid, which is absolutely necessary for hormonal balance in the human body. Potassium iodide, however, cannot lessen the other effects of radiation, which would vary depending upon the amount of exposure. As with preparedness in general, if you're concerned, you'd better act on your own. For companies supplying preparedness products, go to dicksutphen.com and click on the Articles button. But buy it now. All U.S. supplies vanished after the Chernobyl meltdown. For several months, the compound couldn't be purchased at any price. All right. This has been a very condensed exploration of the shift. For additional information on this subject and for a list of preparedness suppliers, go to www.dicksutphen.com and then click on the Articles button. A companion CD will hypnotize and project you into the future to explore for yourself what will be taking place between now and 2012. The second track on the CD projects you in time beyond 2012 and all the way up to 2025. Thank you for listening. I have had several radio shows on the shift, and you can find related titles in the archive at www.contacttalkradio.com. You can listen to the show live on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. or go to iTunes and they will download the show into your iPod every week. Breathing deeply and relaxing completely. Take a deep breath in and hold it as long as you comfortably can. And then let the breath out slowly through slightly parted lips. And when the breath is all the way out, contract your stomach muscles and push it even further out. And further out, and then repeat the process. So you're breathing deeply, relaxing completely, and you're allowing the quietness of spirit to begin to come in. And in just a moment, I'm going to begin to relax your body one part at a time. So now play the role, play the part. Feel your body relaxing as I ask you to do so. And the relaxing sensations are now coming into the toes of both of your feet at the same time. They're moving right on down into the ball, into your arches, into your heels, and right on up to your ankles. Completely relaxed, completely relaxed. And now feel the relaxing sensations as they move on up your legs to your knees, relaxing all the muscles as it goes. And on up your legs now to your thighs and to your hips, permeating every cell and every atom. And you're relaxing completely, keeping your full attention now on the sound of my voice and relaxing your body. And the relaxing sensations now come into the fingers of both of your hands, relaxing your hands and your forearms are relaxing, and your upper arms are relaxing. So your fingers and hands and forearms and upper arms, they're now just completely relaxed. And the relaxing sensations move on down into the base of your spine, your root chakra at the base of your spine, and you feel the warmth as if a ray of sunlight were coming into the room and it were falling upon the base of your spine. Feels warm, feels good, and you imagine this warmth moving slowly up your spine, up your spine, up your spine, and into the back of your neck and shoulder muscle. And the back of your neck and shoulder muscles are now loose and limp, loose and limp, just completely relaxed now. And the relaxing sensations move on up the back of your neck and into your scalp, relaxing your scalp. And they drain down into your facial muscles, relaxing your facial muscles. Now your jaw's relaxed. Allow a little space between your teeth, and your throat is relaxed. And your entire body is now relaxed all over in every way, and all tension is gone from your body and mind. And it's time to imagine a bright white light coming down from above, the God light, the universal light of life energy, and it enters your crown chakra on the top of your head. And this chakra center is purple in color. So imagine the purple and the opening and the balancing and the energizing. And the light continues on down into your brow chakra center in the middle of your forehead. And here you imagine a blue-violet color, and an opening and a balancing and a charging. And the light continues on down now into your throat chakra center, which is a silvery blue. So imagine the silvery blue color, and the balancing, the opening, the charging. And the light now moves on down into your heart chakra center, which is a golden glow. So imagine the golden color, and the opening, and the balancing, and the charging. And the light continues on down into your solar plexus chakra, which is located at the level of your navel. And here you imagine many shades of red in color, and you perceive the opening and the balancing and the charging. And the light continues on down into your sacral chakra center, which is located just a little below your navel. And this center is made up of all the colors of the rainbow. So imagine the multicolors and the balancing, the opening, the charging. And the light now moves on down into your root chakra center, where you imagine the oranges and the reds and the balancing, opening and energizing. And your chakra centers are now balanced and energized, thus expanding your aura and enhancing the perception of subjective awareness. And so now, as you continue to focus on the sound of my voice, it's time to imagine yourself going down, down, down. See yourself in a situation in which you are going down, down, down. Number 7, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 6, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 5, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 4, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 3, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 2, deeper, 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 down, down, down. And number 1. And you are now relaxed and at ease, and you feel deep. A quietness of spirit fills your body and mind as we begin to explore together. Now you can awaken on your own at any time by simply counting yourself up silently in your mind from 1 to 5. If you use this self-releasing suggestion, you will awaken at peace with yourself, the world, and everyone in it. And as I hypnotically project you forward into the future, you are ready to trust every thought, every feeling, and every visualization. You have the power and ability to accurately perceive what is to come, to know what will unfold as we move toward the time of the shift, December 21, 2012. So I'm calling out to your spirit guides and your guardian angels to come in and support you in this exploration. I am asking them to join you now, and it's time for you to do the same. Silently in your mind, ask those in spirit to join you. Call in those who are always with you, supporting you, helping you to remain on the path you incarnated to walk during this lifetime. Call them in. Imagine your voice echoing out across the universe and back to you. and your spiritual supporters are now with you, ready to assist you in exploring what is to come. And we're going to begin this exploration by having you project forward into the future to explore how the financial situation in our country evolves. The government is bailing out major financial institutions, the auto industry, and other key aspects of our society. Retail stores are closing, businesses are bankrupting, unemployment is rampant, and home foreclosures are common. And it's time for you to project forward into the future to explore outcomes over the coming months between now and December 21, 2012. Your higher mind and your spiritual helpers will guide you in perceiving an overview, an understanding of how the future unfolds in this area. So on the count of 3, you project into the future, trusting every thought, feeling, and visualization that comes into your mind. Number 1, number 2, and number 3. And you have just seen what is to come in regard to the financial situation in our country. And now, on the count of 3, your higher mind and those who love and teach and guide you in spirit will assist you to perceive what will be happening financially in other parts of the world. So trust now as you project to key cities and observe for yourself what is financially unfolding. Number 1, number 2, and number 3. And again, you have seen the financial future, this time the financial future of other areas in the world. All right. We're asking your higher mind and your spirit helpers to advise you in regard to what you need to be doing in relationship to what is coming financially. Is there any action you should be taking? Open now to any and all ideas that come into your mind. Spirit will be guiding your thoughts, feelings, and visualizations. What do you need to do to prepare for what is to come? On the count of 3, trust your perceptions. Number 1, number 2, and number 3. And you have just been shown key understanding as to what is right for you to do in regard to the forthcoming shift. And now, in case you did not already perceive this awareness, it's time to learn where you should be living upcoming. Should you stay where you are? Should you move? Open now as Spirit communicates with you in this regard. Number 1, number 2, and number 3. And again, you have just foreseen what you need to know personally. Our world is changing, and each of us in our own way needs to make changes that will prepare us to best handle a new future. And now, let's project forward in time to explore what you need to be doing in regard to your career. Should you remain doing what you are currently doing for a career? Or should you be developing new abilities to offer in addition to what you are doing? Or should you be changing careers? Listen now as Spirit assists you in regard to any changes you need to consider about your career. On the count of 3, vivid impressions come into your mind. Number 1, number 2, and number 3. And again, you have been perceiving guidance and awareness that will serve you as we move toward the shift. December 21, 2012. And it's time to explore your key relationship. If a couple is not getting along or one partner is holding the other back, the energy of the shift appears to be generating separations that will allow people to come together with a new partner of a matching vibrational rate. So this exploration is to find out if you have already been shifted in this area, or if you need to be aware of any forthcoming relationship changes. Now be open to every thought, feeling, and visualization. What does the shift mean to you in regard to relationship? Number 1, number 2, and number 3. And again, you are perceiving impressions that relate to changes taking place as we move into the future. And it's now time to project forward to the actual date of the shift, December 21, 2012. This time, on the count of 3, you will perceive what is happening in New York City on this date. You will obtain an overview of all that is happening. Explore Manhattan from many different viewpoints, from the subways in the lower part of the city, to Wall Street, to the stores, hotels, and activities in mid-Manhattan, and on up into Central Park, to the apartments on the Upper West Side. Perceive what is happening in New York City on December 21, 2012, number 1, number 2, and number 3. And it's time to let go of this. Now remember all you're perceiving, but it's time to move on to London, England on December 21, 2012, and again obtain an overview of all that is happening in and around London at this time. On the count of 3, vivid impressions come in, number 1, number 2, and number 3. Trust. And again, you're perceiving what is to come on the day of the shift. Remember your impressions. But let's move on now to what is happening in your home area on the state. Your home area, where you live. New impressions on the count of 3, number 1, number 2, and number 3. And once again, you've been perceiving what is coming between now and the day of the shift, December 21, 2012. And now I'm going to be quiet for a while to give you an opportunity to ask your own questions of those who love and teach and guide you in spirit. Ask a question with a thought, and then listen as the answer comes back to you in the form of a returning thought. And it's now time to awaken, remembering all you've learned about the future. You'll awaken to full beta consciousness on the count of 5. And on the count of 5, you will open your eyes and be wide awake, fully alert, thinking and acting with calm self-assurance. And you'll feel as if you've just taken a relaxing nap. And you'll awaken at peace with yourself, the world, and everyone in it. So number 1, you're coming on up now. Coming on up, and you sense an expanding spiritual light within. Number 2, you're coming on up, and you feel at peace with all life. Number 3, coming on up, tapping into an internal balance and harmony. Number 4, recall the situation in the room. And number 5, wide awake. Wide awake. Open your eyes and feel good. Number 5, wide awake. Breathing deeply and relaxing completely. Take a deep breath in and hold it as long as you comfortably can. And then let the breath out slowly through slightly parted lips. And when the breath is all the way out, contract your stomach muscles and push it even further out. And further out, and then repeat the process. So you're breathing deeply, relaxing completely, and you're allowing the quietness of spirit to begin to come in. And in just a moment, I'm going to begin to relax your body one part at a time. So now play the role, play the part. Feel your body relaxing as I ask you to do so. And the relaxing sensations are now coming into the toes of both of your feet at the same time. They're moving right on down into the ball, into your arches, into your heels, and right on up to your ankles. Completely relaxed, completely relaxed. And now feel the relaxing sensations as they move on up your legs to your knees, relaxing all the muscles as it goes. And on up your legs now to your thighs and to your hips, permeating every cell and every atom. And you're relaxing completely, keeping your full attention now on the sound of my voice, and relaxing your body. And the relaxing sensations now come into the fingers of both of your hands, relaxing your hands, and your forearms are relaxing, and your upper arms are relaxing. So your fingers and hands and forearms and upper arms, they're now just completely relaxed. And the relaxing sensations move on down into the base of your spine, your root chakra at the base of your spine, and you feel the warmth as if a ray of sunlight were coming into the room and it were falling upon the base of your spine. Feels warm, feels good, and you imagine this warmth moving slowly up your spine, up your spine, up your spine, and into the back of your neck and shoulder muscle. And the back of your neck and shoulder muscles are now loose and limp, loose and limp, just completely relaxed now. And the relaxing sensations move on up the back of your neck and into your scalp, relaxing your scalp. And they drain down into your facial muscles, relaxing your facial muscles. Now your jaw's relaxed. Allow a little space between your teeth, and your throat is relaxed. And your entire body is now relaxed all over in every way, and all tension is gone from your body and mind. And it's time to imagine a bright white light coming down from above, the God light, the universal light of life energy, and it enters your crown chakra on the top of your head. And this chakra center is purple in color. So imagine the purple and the opening and the balancing and the energizing. And the light continues on down into your brow chakra center in the middle of your forehead. And here you imagine a blue-violet color, and an opening and a balancing and a charging. And the light continues on down now into your throat chakra center, which is a silvery blue. So imagine the silvery blue color and the balancing, the opening, the charging. And the light now moves on down into your heart chakra center, which is a golden glow. So imagine the golden color and the opening and the balancing and the charging. And the light continues on down into your solar plexus chakra, which is located at the level of your navel. And here you imagine many shades of red in color. And you perceive the opening and the balancing and the charging. And the light continues on down into your sacral chakra center, which is located just a little below your navel. And this center is made up of all the colors of the rainbow. So imagine the multicolors and the balancing, the opening, the charging. And the light now moves on down into your root chakra center, where you imagine the oranges and the reds and the balancing, opening and energizing. and your chakra centers are now balanced and energized, thus expanding your aura and enhancing the perception of subjective awareness. And so now, as you continue to focus on the sound of my voice, it's time to imagine yourself going down, down, down. See yourself in a situation in which you are going down, down, down. Number 7, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 6, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 5, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 4, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 3, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 2, deeper, 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 down, down, down. And number 1. And you are now relaxed and at ease, and you feel deep. A quietness of spirit fills your body and mind as we begin to explore together. Now you can awaken on your own at any time by simply counting yourself up silently in your mind from 1 to 5. If you use this self-release suggestion, you will awaken at peace with yourself, the world, and everyone in it. And as I hypnotically project you forward into the future, you are ready to trust every thought, every feeling, and every visualization. You have the power and ability to accurately perceive what is to come, to know what will unfold as we move to a time after the shift of December 21, 2012. So I'm calling out to your spirit guides and your guardian angels to come in and support you in this exploration. I'm asking them to join you now, and it's time for you to do the same. Silently in your mind, ask those in spirit to join you. Call in those who are always with you, supporting you, helping you to remain on the path you incarnated to walk during this lifetime. Call them in. Imagine your voice echoing out across the universe and back to you. And your spiritual supporters are now with you, ready to assist you in exploring what is to come beyond 2012. Some believe we will experience a paradigm shift in consciousness. Others feel it will be a time of cataclysmic change. Maybe we'll be experiencing both at the same time. So it's time now to trust as you've never trusted before. You have the power and ability to project forward in time, just as you can project backward to view past lives. Now we're going to begin this exploration by having you project forward into the future to explore the weeks following December 21, 2012. What will be happening at this time? Your own higher mind and those who love, teach, and guide you in spirit will direct you to observe what is to come shortly after the shift. So open now to perceive impressions in the form of visualizations, thoughts, or feelings. On the count of 3, vivid impressions come into your mind. Number 1, number 2, and number 3. And you are perceiving, understanding about what is to come after 2012. Remember everything that you're perceiving, but it's time to let go and continue to explore your future. Only this time we will move forward to the middle of summer in 2015. On the count of 5, it will be midsummer 2015, and vivid impressions will come into your mind. Impressions of what is happening in New York City at this time. So attain an overview of the city on the count of 3, number 1, number 2, and number 3. And once again, you're perceiving what is taking place in your world after the shift during the summer of 2015. And now let's leave New York and explore what's taking place in your home area at this same time, summer 2015. On the count of 3, new impressions come in: number 1, number 2, and number 3. All right, letting go and moving on, remembering all you're perceiving. But it's now time to explore what is happening in regard to global warming. Are the sea levels rising? And if so, how much? What is the situation in port cities? Explore the water levels around the world. On the count of 3, vivid new images and awareness comes in: number 1, number 2, and number 3. And it's time to let go of this and move on to the year 2020. What is happening in general in our world in the year 2020? Open your mind and trust now. New impressions on how people are living, the monetary situation, the results of global warming, and everything else. Obtain an overview of the world of 2020. On the count of 3, new impressions, number 1, number 2, and number 3. And you have just observed our world to come, and you will remember all you've learned. But it's now time to project even farther into the future. On the count of 3, new impressions come in of the world of 2025. Attain an overview of the world of 2025 on the count of 3, number 1, number 2, and number 3. And once again, you've been perceiving what is coming between the years 2012 and 2025. And now I'm going to be quiet for a while to give you an opportunity to ask your own questions of those who love and teach and guide you in spirit. Ask a question with a thought and then listen as the answer comes back to you in the form of a returning thought directed from spirit. And it's now time to awaken, remembering all you've learned about the future. You'll awaken to full beta consciousness on the count of 5. On the count of 5, you'll open your eyes and be wide awake, fully alert, thinking and acting with calm self-assurance. And you'll feel as if you've just taken a relaxing nap. And you'll awaken at peace with yourself, the world, and everyone in it. So let's come on up now. Number 1, you're coming on up and you sense an expanding spiritual light within. Number 2, you're coming on up and you feel at peace with all life. Number 3, coming up now, tapping into an internal balance and harmony. Number 4, recall the situation in the room. And number 5, wide awake, wide awake. Open your eyes and feel good. Number 5, wide awake.